Okay, boys and girls, sitting on top of my eminent speaker here is an Ampeg B-12-X1, I believe it says B12, or XT, excuse me, B-12-XT. And it's a flip-top amplifier for guitar. It is 2-channel, and the low down here, it has reverb and vibrato, but essentially the volume level out of it is really low and really fuzzy. I've got the volume up at like halfway. This should want to blow my face off. That should be really, really loud, and it's just not. So both channels seem to be doing the same thing. There's channel 1, we'll put it at half volume. That one's even lower right now. Try that input instead of the other one. There's sound there, but it ain't much. I mean, not hardly at all. So there you go. There's what our problem is. So time to break into it and see why it is outputting very, very low volume, and what it does output is kind of fuzzy and hazy. Okay, so I'm just checking out the tubes here. I've taken the shields off so I can have a look. I am not the first monkey in this jungle. This filter cap has been replaced by one of the new CE distribution ones, so great. The power tubes are JJ7029As, which is what's appropriate. The 7199, good God, I hope that's good, is vintage. And everything else, with the exception of the reverb tube down there, which is a 6 CG7, I think it is, or 6 CG7, I think they are. But that's the driver for the reverb. That's a vintage. But the rectifier is a JJ. All the 12AX7s are newer JJs, and the power tubes are newer JJs. So we have new caps and a lot of new tubes. I'm definitely not the first monkey in this jungle. Yeah. Okay, now what I found just by taking the tube shields off with this running, if I kind of just put the hand right kind of around the tube, obviously I have noise in my hand. If I put some noise in and around this one, which is a phase inverter tube, I get a substantial amount of noise outside of the amplifier, so I have a feeling we're working from here. But I have a feeling something over here has just kind of made a disconnect with our power tubes down here. We'll have a look. Okay, so yes, I'm definitely not the first monkey in this jungle. This is a cap from CE distribution also. CE 25800, so 25 microfarad, 800 volts. And that capacitor was stuck down here with sticky tape in this, and that didn't hold. So, but it's obviously it's insulated on both sides, and you know, that's probably okay. And it looks like all the electrolytics I see have been dealt with. I don't like how this board is kind of curling up on both ends, because it's not really fastened well on both ends. But I don't know that that's necessarily going to be to anybody's detriment here. So it looks like the sound coming from each of these goes to, you know, a 12AX7, and then back to the volume, and then back to a 12AX7, and then down the line. So I think I might just do a little bit of tone injecting and see where the buck stops. Okay, so let's just talk about this. First of all, a big thanks to Glass Monster. You can maybe go find his Discord server. He does have a YouTube channel with virtually nothing on it. But whoever was in here before me actually replaced all of the electrolytic capacitors, which is a good thing on an amp this old. I don't like the way they failed to thoroughly attach this one, so I took care of that. But what we ended up doing without filming it was just checking voltages on our tubes. We started at the power tube end and started working our way back. If the amp isn't really making a final sound and both channels are dead, odds are it's going to be toward the final, because it affects both preamp channels, right? So we started at this end and checked the voltages here, and we found that the voltages in this amp are just high across the board, probably because, you know, old wall voltage versus new wall voltage. The bias resistor, which is way over here, it's the one on the far left, that had drifted high, and the tubes really weren't drawing very much, which led the voltages on the tubes to be even higher yet. So changing the bias resistor and then putting a couple of small value cathode resistors on there just to prevent the tubes from potentially running away. The biggest problem was here with the 7199, which is the inverter tube. Dear Lord, please don't be bad. I had said earlier in jest, it was not, but a lot of the things around it were. The two resistors that feed the various portions on it were open, and the capacitor that goes up to it was also leaky, so the voltages were just all wrong. On our Ampeg schematic that I was able to get, the voltages are all listed here on all of the important pins, so it's great. This is, although it's a wonky layout and a wonky design, like over here you see this tube over here, you'd think that's one tube and it's half of tube 6 and half of tube 5. I know, how weird, huh? But tube 3 over here is the 7199, and we were able to get all of the voltages fairly close, and there were a few of them that were just missing. This 270k ohm resistor was open, and this 470k was open. So we had two open resistors. There they are over there, and we got those replaced, and the amp has come back to life. Also, I ended up changing a light bulb in here that was bad. So bias resistor, a couple cathode resistors on the power tubes just to protect them, and a couple open resistors and one capacitor that went up to that 7199, and she's back to life. So let's give it a final test. Okay, so now we're working. Our volume's at like 15%. And lots of reverb. The vibrato function here, turn off the reverb. The vibrato function here does work, but my word is it subtle, and I've been told that Ampegs are generally subtle. It's actually at a high intensity. If you really dime the thing, you can hear it. It does work. It's there, but my word is that subtle. Almost seems like it's a little too subtle for me, but you know, I've been told that Ampegs are subtle, and the dude told me when he brought it in that the tremolo and reverb work, so we weren't worried about that. Our concern was to make it make sound, and I think we've accomplished that. I like that reverb though. I've always loved the Ampeg reverbs. Yeah. I'm sure if we really crank that, it'll want to surf, right? Oh yeah. Cool, and then we have channel 1, which should work okay too. Make sure. Yep. Cool, it's alive. So our problems all were sort of around the phase inverter not having voltages, so the signal was essentially dying when it got to the phase inverter. So now that that's solved, hooray for everything.